die?
Oh boy, we were just talking about. Okay, here we go. Next to the sinners, we're gonna go back to. um, let's see. Where do we go? I think that goes by what you think is going to happen. I think when you wind up in your death state, it is based on what you're thinking of at that time when you die, or what you believe up to the point when you die. And that's what I think is going to happen. And that's based on a wide variety of different beliefs that's endless. I mean, you could be Norse, well, let's go to Valhalla, let's go to heaven, let's go to, reincarnation, whatever it is, it all depends on. So I don't think it's just one way. I think it's based on what you believe it to be. And I think all of those actually happen. They do. I don't think it's one way and somebody else is wrong and you have to follow this. And, once again, those rules, I think whatever you believe at that time is where you're going to wind up in your mind, in your mind state. Because there are some people who are very negative people and they've had near-death experiences and they come back and they're like, I went to this horrible place and la, 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 and they went on and on and on. And then you have these other ones and, they see this light. So it's so varied that, you may not even go anywhere. You may have a tragic death and you may be earthbound. You may be an earthbound spirit that you're not going to go any place until somebody sends you to wherever you need to go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's a hard question to answer because if anyone tells you that they know like 100%, they're lying and they're trying to control you. First of all. But being someone that sees spirits and works with spirits, I agree. It's different. It's different for wherever you're at the time, whatever you need, wherever you need to go. My mom was a very strict Catholic. And when she passed, well, the day before she actually passed, she did what I call the rehearsal death. Like we were all there and she's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm going to go. You have to let me go. And we're all like, okay. And we're all crying and, and I saw she left. Okay. And her body, like her mouth opened and everything. And then and we're all crying like, oh my God. And a few seconds later, she comes back and she's like, oh, Margaret, I guess it's not that easy to get into heaven. And I'm like, Ma, like you scared me.
The divine comedy of, how do you die?
Like, oh my gosh, so I call it the rehearsal death. And my sister has it recorded because my sister was on, like, I had my phone going like the whole time, for my sister in Alberta. And so she was recording everything. And we have that on video. And I do refer to it as the rehearsal death. So that had me questioning a lot of things. Like, I guess it's not that easy to get into heaven. Like,
that's an interesting question. Yeah, boy. So yeah, it's like you said, that's an open-ended discussion that there are no easy answers and explanations to.
Absolutely. And I've seen my mom since, not that much, but every now and again. And the only thing that she has told me was it's not what she expected. That's all I know.
That's
so she pops around now and then, but and then we have my father. He's around all the time and he's happy to be around. He is living his best afterlife right now and he chooses to be here now. And it's his choice. So I think, and I asked him once, what is it like? Tell me, please. Because we used to banter back and forth. He was an atheist and I'm me, seeing spirits and doing magic and whatever. And, he's like, no, Margaret, when I believe when we're gone, that's it. We cease to exist. I'm like, Dad, I've seen too much to agree with you there, but you'll see one day we'll be having this conversation in the other realms and I'll be like, I told you so. But he is very much around. And when I asked him, what do you see? He showed me the sky the cosmos,
Yeah.
the stars. And then though, he also showed me the ocean.
Wow.
So I reflect on that a lot. Like, what was
Yeah.
he trying to tell me? But the truth is we don't know. And I don't know if even they're allowed to tell us what it is. But and I think another part of that, like you said, it's different for everyone. You know, I'm hoping to keep my awareness, like with each lifetime I have memories and I continue to evolve, you know.
Yeah.
Not in this shell, but different. And we just,
Well, yeah, I mean, I have, several memories from several past lives and, things like this. But it's interesting you mentioned that because yesterday, the 22nd, was the anniversary of my mom's death. She died 31 years ago. And yeah, she's always been close to me all of these years. And she was very psychic as well. We have, even to this day, a very tight bond. As the poem says, and death shall have no dominion. And it's true. I think Blake said that. Don't quote me, but I think William Blake said that.
oh, I have to look at that because, yeah.
Death shall have no dominion. My dad, who was not a part of my life, but we did get kind of close the last month before he passed. And he died in 2015. And he's with me quite often, actually. So I think he is more earthbound, and he was an atheist. And he's much more, solidified and not wanting to go anyplace, I don't think. And but he gave me his card before he died, and it's strange because when he comes to visit, I know. And the night that he died, that I was the only one with him in the room when he passed. Everybody, including his wife, had left the room because they were going to rotate him and all this other stuff, and I just happened to choose to stay behind and be with him. And the nurse turned around and he took his last breath. And I said, he just took his last breath. And she turned around, and sure enough, he had gone. Well, he came home with me that night. And I know this because I could feel him. And not only that, but the lights, because it was in October and it was late in the, early afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. And the lights in my car were dimming and coming on, repeatedly. So I just started talking to him. I'm like, oh, you decided to come home with me, huh? And we just started talking like, kind of, in that kind of sense. And it was just awesome. So I also know of other people who, claim that there's nothing after death. And when they died, they came to me and said, well, you were right. I'm like, yeah, I told you so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you so.
Yes, the I told you so dance is what I call it. But and that's just being light and making fun of stuff.
Yeah.
But my grandfather as well, Percy, I don't know why we always called him Percy and not Grandpa, but it was always Percy. That's his first name. And he came from, his grandfather, I guess, brought the Methodist religion over. His father, there was a little scuffle and he became an Anglican minister and whatever. And Percy couldn't accept my ways at all. And he would be, he was respectful, but tried to enlighten me. And before he passed, he came to me and he said, you know what, Margaret, you were right. It doesn't make a difference. You just have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And he said, and I had just talked to my mom on the phone. She was living with him at the time. And I said, Mom, I have a feeling, like, how's Percy doing? I have a feeling he's going to pass. Like, he was just here. And my mother was like, because he told me he was going to pass and I have to let my mom know and be there for her and whatever. And she's like, you stop it, because she's Catholic, stop it with your ways. You always upset people. And, and she hung up on me. And then she called me back 2 minutes later. The hospital just called, Percy's passing away, and whatever. And I'm like, okay, So even Percy, before he passed, wanted to let me know, like, it's not about that. It's not what you say, it's about who you are. is the real difference. You know, that person you are when nobody's watching, that person is what counts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, yeah. And that's the best answer I could give with the most heartfelt truth to anyone who's watching. It's who you really are that matters, not what you identify with, not how much money you put in the basket or what, you know, it's about who you are, what you do, how you affect others.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. It is. It's about being responsible, take responsibility for your own actions, hold yourself accountable, be decent to those who are decent to you, all of those things. That's what counts, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because your name is Margaret, obviously.
Yes.
That was my mother's name.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. That was my mom's name. I'm like, wow, you know, I just put two and two together when you started saying that. And I'm like, hey, I'll have to mention that, you know, it's you're, you know, you and my mom had the same name, and that's just awesome.
Wow. Well, my mom had the same name too, because her name was Margaret.
Wow.
But
okay.
I was named after Saint Margaret because my mom fell down the stairs when she was pregnant with me, and she prayed to Saint Margaret to make sure I was all right and that I would be named after Saint Margaret.
Okay.
So that's where that is from. And it's funny using the name Margaret because it still startles me, because whenever I was in trouble, it was like, Margaret!
Hey!
Yeah, I'm like, I'm being called Margaret.
Stop doing that! Like, we know what that means.
Exactly.
I gotta find a closet to go hide in.
I pretend I don't hear you.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, because I'm Cynthia after Mount Cynthos in Greece, after, you know, the goddess Cynthia. And I'm like,
I've always loved that name, Cynthia. There's something just so mystical about Cynthia.
Yeah, and you know, and I hated it as a kid, but now as an adult and being a magical individual, fully, you know, entranced in it, it's like, this is actually awesome. I like this. I'm a goddess. I'm named after a goddess. I'll take it.
Yes, absolutely. One of my best friends when I was little, her name was Cynthia. And so I loved that name, like Cynthia. She was Hungarian. And when it was the first time I ever heard that name, and I just thought it was so mystical.
Yeah. And now we know why. Now we know why. You look in any Greek mythology book and there's the name, you know, and like, oh.
Have you addressed this question with your patron spirits or the spirits that you work with? Thank you. So I think in a way I touched on that a bit, but have you?
In which way?
Touched on the dying aspect with the spirits that you work with.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I know what I know of it. It could be a variety of different avenues. You know, it could be door number 1. It could be door number 2. I know this sounds kind of stupid, but, you know, based on your culture and your background, like I said before, it's going to be, you're going to go where your mind takes you, and in your mind, in your death state at that time, or up to that time. You know, if you are in the middle of, you see, you know, you're going to get hit by a semi, then no, that probably is not going to affect where you're going to go. But up into that time, whatever you believe, that's going to affect your death state and where you're going to go.
Absolutely. And lately I've been picking up on whatever you believe and whatever you think is what you get. Like, that's the show that you get for a certain amount of time. But then after that, you kind of like fade. And that's been a little interesting for me to play with lately, you know, like when I received that, I'm like, okay, you know, not what I wanted exactly to hear, but I do want to hear the truth all the time. I'm just being silly when I say like, you know, I do. I'm a person about the truth. And even parenting, you know, like I had when my daughter was a teenager, I would say there's the type of parents that, you know, just want to think that their kids are a certain way. And then there's the parents like me that want to be in it with our sleeves up, knowing what our kids are into and doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm like that with this too. I want to know what I'm getting, what I'm doing, and we validate our results. Like I know a lot of people think that we're theistic and we believe in spirits and this and that, and we're flighty. And I am flighty. I'm a flighty blonde sometimes. Sure, I get distracted by sparkly things, but I'm really deep too. Like I dig into stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to know the truth. And that's, when I speak to spirits and my, whatever, that's what I'm after. And I suggest everybody do the same. Find your truth. And yeah. Oh, what does it mean, gatekeeper?
Wow. Well, to me, that basically means to, I don't know. Are we referring to death again? I don't know. Is that connected to that? I mean,
like there's the gatekeepers when we do our spiritual practices with the 9 demonic gatekeepers and things like that. Maybe that's what I hear, but it's honestly, it's just
I had pearly gates in my mind. So I guess once again, it's that whole we're off in every direction.
Yeah.
Like I'll go this way, you go that way.
Exactly. We'll cover everything that we can see.
Well, so yeah, if you go and you go up to whatever, if you're in a meditation or you're in a trance and you get to a gate, I don't see why that should be a problem. I mean, is the question basically dealing with crossing a threshold, or that's how I'm taking it, as some kind of crossing line? Yeah. Is that what they're talking about?
Honestly, the question is just phrased. What does it mean, gatekeeper? Unless I missed something somewhere, like I copy and pasted all the questions I could before we met for this, but
that's a difficult one. It's like, what is a gatekeeper? I would suspect that would be, who is coming at you and to you when you approach them at that threshold.
Yeah.
Between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, that's kind of where you walk through the door and, cross the divide. I don't know what else that would actually mean, but it's kind of an odd thing to ask without, it should have more of a consistency to the question.
I agree. When I think gatekeepers, and maybe it's because I, with Become a Living God, they just finished their series of the Gatekeeper series, I guess. So I'm wondering if perhaps this has something to do with that, and if it's in reference to that.
Probably has something to do with the Goetia, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe. Like with Become a Living God, they did the 9 gatekeepers, and the final one is going to be released shortly, and that's on Satan, the compendium of Satan, which I'm really excited about, because Satan is, my main man, and I'm excited to see what all of that is about. But I think gatekeeper, like you said, it's when you're crossing a threshold, perhaps when you're doing path workings or seeking, different wisdoms, you're entering into different realms. There's oftentimes a gatekeeper. That will scare you off, or you can come in, depending. I'm not sure, but there really does need to be more context involved. So.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
A keeper of the gate to see if you're, you're ready to pass through, I guess is.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
I guess it is.
Yes. And what are your opinions on animal sacrifice? I know different traditions at different varying times, have utilized such a thing, but in this day and age, what are your thoughts on that?
I am totally against it. I think it is cruel and unnecessary, and me being definitely towards the vegan side in all aspects. No, I do not believe, and this is across the board. I don't care if it's Satanism, voodoo, any of it. It is I mean, how would they like it if, you know, back in the days of the Incas, they would sacrifice people. It's like, okay, how would you like it if somebody grabbed you and said, guess what you get to do tonight? You get to be our sacrifice. You know, you're not a willing participant. You didn't do anything to deserve this. You're innocent. And I believe all, you know, animals are innocent anyway. And I'm a big animal protecting advocate.
Me too.
And no, I have no time of day for people like that. I respect, say, voodoo, but I would respect it more if it was vegan voodoo, you know, not, there's just, it gives me the Wiggins. I can't stand it. I want all factory farms shut down, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think everybody needs to embrace a plant-based diet. Plain and simple.
No, I agree. Like from my perspective, like just what we're doing to the planet and the way the animals are being raised, fed, and treated, and people are consuming that stressed animal in these poor conditions into their bodies. That's a whole other hot topic. But
well, yeah, and to kind of match that along with it, I actually kind of had a heated discussion about with this woman, and she was saying that, well, animals are here for us to eat. And I kind of jumped down her throat and I said, what makes you think that that is true? I said, okay, and this woman was a Christian. And I said, okay, now wait a minute. Does that mean that you should be treated the way that men, patriarchal men of the Christian religion, want to use you to be a breeder, you know, to make their babies? Is your lot in life to be some man's slave because your religion tells you that? No. No. And the same thing with the whole animal thing. What a misconception.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like from my personal practice, I don't see how that would be right or pleasing to the spirits. And we know spirits, for the most part, the offerings are more for us to feel like we've done ample worship or giving. You know, they're non-physical. So what do they care about our wine or tobacco or whatever? But it's the gesture.
Right. It's like every Friday I give a little shot glass full of water or maybe loose tobacco to Santa Muerte. She loves that, you know, but you know, and that's another, you know, she's misconceived too of being this narco saint. Well, that's maybe true to some people, but not to people like me. She has, you know, brought a lot of miracles and things like this. She's a wonderful spirit, and I call goddess to have a relationship with. She has blessed me well. But yeah, there are all those misconceptions about sacrificing and stuff with taking a life is, no, I'm not okay with it.
Yeah, same here. I completely agree. I would never be able to do that unless it was in defense of something, and that's not part of a ritual. That's a whole different topic.
Well, yeah, if you're out camping and, you know, you're getting mauled by a 700-pound bear, it's like you might need to defend yourself. That's a little bit different.
Exactly. And I brought that up because when people hear that I'm vegetarian, they're like, well, would you kill a mosquito? Well, come on now, it's not the same at all. Like, what do you then ask that? Like, you know, when you're being bit by a mosquito, will you not slap it? I'm like,
well, so you can just brush it away. If
I slap a mosquito, does that mean it's okay for you to like engage in animal cruelty? Like, how is it even relevant? Is that what you're digging deep now, trying to
two completely different things going on.
I know, it's so silly sometimes. Sorry, I got carried away there. It's a passionate topic, you know. I love animals so much.
I do too.
Nature.
Yep, yeah, I do too. When I'm, you know, online going through all of my emails and things, I sign all of these petitions, you know, left and right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best people. That's what I say. Animals and children are the best people, even though animals are not people. But to me, you know, they're the best people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So for the sacrifice, I think sometimes people get confused when they hear blood sacrifice and rituals. They think it has to be either like an animal or a human or things like that. And it doesn't have to be. When you give an offering, it can be of your own blood.
And I give my own blood.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I feel like that's the only blood I have the right to give. And that's from my perspective, you know, like that's the greatest gift I can give is my own blood. Anybody could go and hurt something else, but you know what I mean? You know, a little bit of my own DNA with my intention.
And I think that's the way I think it should be, because it's your own DNA and you're the one that's, you know, you or me or whatever, we're the ones that are doing the magic. Why would you, you know, like I said, have an unwilling participant that is innocent, that has no idea what's going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like when we even think back to some of the burial sites for like the Viking Age and stuff, when they had like their horses and their slaves and things like that. When I think about that, I'm like, wow, imagine being a servant in that time when you know.
Because my family on my mom's side came over to the United States from Norway in 1907. And, you know, my grandmother's name was Thora, named after the god Thor, you know, and this kind of stuff. And, but, you know, just because they did those kinds of things way back in the day to our ancestors, I look at, you don't have to do that now, you know, you can make a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And what really brought it home to me, like, I've always been a vegetarian consciously since the year 2000, New Year's Eve. I made that. Before that, I ate chicken. I thought I was a vegetarian in my early part of life. Like the stuff I was eating, I thought my parents wouldn't be so barbaric as to feed me animals, right? It was machines and chemicals I was eating that was more comforting in my mind as a child. Until my sister enlightened me that what I was eating was actually, you know, from animals. And then I just ate craft dinner forever.
You know, the cans of beans, you know, the vegetarian beans and the ramen noodles, you know, and just leave all the rest of it behind.
Exactly. At one point, my mom was putting an egg into my craft dinner because she was so worried about my health, you know, because I wouldn't eat anything else. But anyway, I forget where I was going with this, actually.
It's okay. This will make for an interesting entertainment for everybody. I love it.
It will. I love it. That's what Witches and Wine is all about, though. I mean, it's witches and wine.
Yeah. And being real.
Yeah, I interviewed my old the high priest that I had my Wiccan coven with, and he's like, "Witches and wine, you know, we open up, man, we get deep," or something like that. I'm like, exactly. But yeah, I forget where I was going with that whole thing. Oh well, whatever. Just, you know, animals are innocent, and to take an innocent thing, in my opinion, I don't know, and I haven't had spirits ever ask me for anything like that.
No.
So I'm not sure, but I know some people really, like, I know of some people that do think that, and they think that, you know, they treat the animal, they spoil it rotten until the point so that it has very little stress and whatever. I mean, I'm not here trying to tell anybody what to do, but I don't know, if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And oh yes, now I remember. So I have a labyrinth that I built that leads to a particular the buckthorn bush on my property, where I connect with the Fae energy, and through that an ancestral goddess who is Anya. And I asked her once, "What do you want for offerings?" Like when I first discovered her and I wanted to know everything about her, I'm like, "What can I give you? You know, do you want this?" And then in a point of desperation, I thought, "Do you want like meat?" You know, like even, and she's like, "No, I don't ever want dead things," is how she put it. She's like, "It is wrong. I am of the land and of nature. Do not insult me by giving me cut flowers even. Or especially not dead things," is how she put it. And I thought, whoa. And I felt like at that moment there was a taboo placed upon me that I cannot, not that I wanted to anyway, but I know, like, it's just a no. It's a big no for me, a big no. Yeah.
No. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've never been asked to do anything like that. I usually give incense.
Yeah.
Simple things like that, or water, or, even little coins, money. But that's it. I'm not going to do anything that is going to be, like you said, giving dead things,
Yeah, exactly. And that really drove it home. And when I was in Ireland at first, when I went there, one time I left an offering of like flowers that I purchased from a shop. But I left it there with the plastic, and like, how they have the plastic around cut flowers and the elastic band and stuff. And I didn't think, I just left it there as an offering, thinking I was doing this big thing. And I had a dream that night back at the hotel. Like, I did a bad thing. I left plastic and, whatever at this ancient site that has been there. So I went back and cleared it up and things like that. And just noticing, like, people have to think about what it is like to be nature.
Yep. Yes.
And to be the spirits. Like, think about that for a minute. And they don't want you tying things to their branches for spells or killing what they're about.
No.
As an offering.
They give life. They, the gods and goddesses, whatever you want to call it, nature in general gives life. Why would you sacrifice that when they've given life, and just to insult them, to say, well, now I'm going to kill what you have just given life to? Well, that's stupid.
Absolutely. I agree. And then this
makes no sense.
Yeah, popped in my head right now, because we're vegetarian. Maybe that's how we see it. So let's say, I just got this now, so that's why I'm bringing it up. So let's say we were farmers, okay, like the farmers were back in the day, and to offer up, our animal that we were going to consume to the gods, but then consume it as a sacrifice, as a holy feast, let's say, for lack of a better term. Would you think, I don't even know if I'm going to put any of this in, by the way. I'll have to see when I'm not on wine if I'm going to put it in, but it's an interesting topic. Would you consider that okay? Like,
no.
If they're going to consume it anyway? And
No. Same thing with, I live in a rural area of the country, and tons of hunters and whatnot. And it's like, okay, no, I'm not okay with that. That's, game, as they call it, or trophies, quote unquote. It's like, no. I'm just not, I don't care if you consume it or not.
And some of the hunters, I've learned this recently. I live in a rural area as well, and I can hear when it's hunting season. Yeah, I can hear and it bothers me a lot. And the deer love my land. Like, they hang out, they love the energy here, especially by that labyrinth I was talking about. Like, they lay down there, they rest there. I could see them from my window. It's so beautiful. And then later on in the day I hear these gunshots and I'm like, but I've learned that some hunters actually sit back and drink the whole time and just leave food and shoot them while they're eating.
Oh, I know.
So, yeah,
I know all about it. And like bears and bear baiting, and the whole shooting the during their hibernations, time when they're sleeping, and they go in and they shoot the mother and the cubs when they're completely defenseless. And I'm like, pathetic. Same thing with elephants and endangered animals. God.
Yeah. So I guess we were either the right people or the wrong people to ask this question to.
Right. But we have the right to defend what we need to defend.
Yes,
we do.
Absolutely. So yeah, and some people do believe that you have to have animal sacrifice.
I think that's true. And we both agree on that's not true. No.
Yeah. If you need to add some blood, add your own, but build the energy yourself. I've been at a ritual, a heathen ritual once. They didn't slaughter an animal like right there. It was at a camping event and whatever. But the animal was raised with this purpose and given a very good life according to them, and treated like royalty right up until the point. And then that goat was actually a feast for the Vikings, like it was raised for that. But the parts that they couldn't, like they don't eat, like the intestines and stuff like that, were given as a sacrifice to Thor, because they were erecting a Thor, like a god pole. And I didn't know that was going to be part of the ritual, but when I was there, when I opened that tote of the inside of the animal, like I almost fainted, like just like the stench and everyone that knows me, like I have all these Vikings like look right at me right away, like, oh, what is she gonna do, and I'm just like all wheezy.
Oh, ew, yeah, no thanks. Ugh.
Yeah, but the way it was done, I thought that was a respectful way. Like they're eating it anyway, and these were the parts, and they did, so from their stance, I can see they did what they thought. And it was just, I almost fainted. There was nothing in that part that resonated with me, but like I've seen on Instagram, people saying that they sacrificed animals to Satan, let's say. And there was nothing like, to sacrifice is to make sacred, first of all. I think that's what the term means.
Yep.
This person was just killing animals to be a dick because they had issues. They need to go see a therapist, really.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. When people do that kind of thing, that's the makings of a serial killer.
And, like this person killed like a baby goat with a rock and just left it like on all these rocks. Like that's not a sacrifice at all. That's you engaging in
some kind of sick fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was the same person, I don't follow them anymore, and the same person killed, like during one of their rituals, killed like this, like they just murdered an animal and left it there.
Oh, like no.
Do you think that Satan, the Lord of the Earth, wants you to be murdering his creations? How does that make sense?
I can't fathom that. It's about why would you take the life of an innocent being when Satan wants all beings to enjoy life and have life?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it makes no sense.
I don't understand. Yeah, so I'm with you on that.
I leave that nonsense to the Christians and their whole sacrificing lambs and cutting babies in two and blah, blah, blah. All those stupid stories. I'm like, no, you can have it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I get accused of that. Like, if anyone knows me, my husband laughs and people that know me laugh. Like, when I get asked these questions, like, do you kill babies and do you do this and all this weird stuff? I'm like, actually, no. Like, my mind wouldn't even conceive of such a thing. No. Like, what you're accusing me of is speaking volumes about you.
Right, exactly. I have been asked if I was afraid to drink holy water. Was I going to spontaneously combust? What else was it? Was I afraid to walk into a church because, well, maybe you'll die or what? I'm like, where do you people come up with this nonsense?
I know, it's hilarious. And in all honesty, when I was a teenager and reading the Satanic Bible, like back when I was young, when I first walked into the church and the altar lights didn't the candles didn't blow out and all this shit, I was a little disappointed. I thought it would have been a cool entrance.
I'm Wonder Woman. I'm going to make the lights go out and blow out the candles.
Exactly.
I'm going to blow up Jesus.
Yeah. The statue just,
All of these misconceptions is like, wow.
Yeah. And actually the priest that I knew since childhood, because when you're in a Catholic school you have to go to mass regularly and all that stuff, he saw me with my pentagrams and all of that, and he was just like, oh, Margaret. Good old Father Brady. He was like, how are you doing? Actually, he was pretty cool about it. He didn't say anything.
Then he let it go.
Yeah, he let it go.
Well, that's good that he let it go.
Yeah, but nothing happened to the church when I went in.
We don't make anything blow up, and we're not afraid of holy water, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was even pressured into taking the host, and I was worried of what might happen, but nothing happened. It was all good. So, I did the host thing to make my mom happy because, she was really worried about my soul, she was from a good place, not from a
not from a vicious place.
And once she realized I was cool with whatever, because this is how I put it to her, and I'll put it to everyone who is watching. At the end of your days, so at the end of my days, if I have to truly answer for everything that I've done, I want it to be because I lived my truth and for things that I believed and that things that I've done, not just what I was told was right. Because what if you do these things that you're told is right, but it doesn't feel right, and you get there and you realize it was wrong.
Yeah.
And you're fucked. Let's just say, for something that you didn't believe.
Right. And you're living a lie to please everybody else.
Yeah. And you get there and it was all for nothing. And I can't do that. I'll answer for what I do and what I believe with complete, I will, I'm ready for that. And my mom respected that. She just let it go and said, okay, I can respect that. I'm still worried about you, but okay.
Well, that's good. At least you came to a peaceful spot,
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. My AirPods are giving me the signal that they're going to crash, but this has been so lovely. I can really keep talking to you for hours.
I know. I could do that with you too. And
so, well, you have yourself a lovely evening. Thank you so very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me again. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Me too.
Okay.
Darkest blessings.
Darkest blessings.
And until next time, I wish you dark and wild blessings.